Welcome, Alex Weber. Welcome to Tech Open Air On Air show with Q Podcasts.
Thank you so much.
So I heard this is 10th year in Berlin, that you're originally from Vienna. And it is also the 10th year of Tech Open Air. So what is your experience here today?
Yeah, lovely coincidence. I moved to Berlin 10 years ago to join N26 as one of the first employees. But today I'm at TOA as I'm looking to the future and I'm thinking about starting my own company. And I find it extremely interesting to learn a lot more about what has happened in the last 6 to 9 months on the AI front, on the technological front, because I took some time off and I'm just coming back now, and a lot happened in those 6 to 9 months. So it's been really fascinating over the last 2 days to learn a lot more about how the world is changing and what's happening in AI and technology. So really grateful for that opportunity to learn a lot in a short period of time here.
We are happy to see you with us. All right,
Yeah.
cool. So maybe we can start a bit from your entrepreneurial story. So you're an entrepreneur yourself and one of the first employees of N26.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about yourself? Like, what have you been doing? What are your success story, maybe briefly?
Yeah. Well, I sort of discovered my passion for entrepreneurship as I was finishing university 11 years ago by now. And as a result, I knew I always wanted to build companies, to help to build them or to build them myself. And as a result, I decided to join N26 as one of the first employees back in 2014. So that's 10 years
Wow.
ago. I was employee number 7. We were still working on a different proposition back in the day, and joined sort of 6 months before we had our first customer. I stayed there for 9 years and I saw the company grow from 7 employees to almost 2,000, from 0 customers to almost 10 million.
Wow.
And it really was a wonderful entrepreneurial journey from within. And yeah, last year then I stepped down eventually to work towards starting my own company. Took some time off after that, and now I'm sort of back and starting to work towards my own company. So entrepreneurship is very close to my heart. It's very much my professional, let's say, purpose. And I've seen it sort of from within for a very long time in one of the most successful startups in Europe, I would say. Yeah.
Can you give us some sneak peek about your new company, or is it still
Not
secret?
yet, no.
Okay. Cool. And by the way, 7 is a lucky number.
Yeah.
Cool. Saying that, I have 2 more questions for you. The first is, what makes the Berlin startup ecosystem attractive to invest in?
Yeah. Well, it's really been a journey. I think when I came in 2014, Berlin was really the leading sort of city in Europe for startups. I would say London was also sort of in the picture, even though London was a lot more expensive. Cost of living is very expensive. So back in the day, Berlin stood out for a couple of reasons. One, cost of living was a lot lower than, let's say, London or Paris. Berlin is a city that is very international, very interesting for young people, very interesting for international people. It's not required to speak German here. There is sort of a lot
You say so?
I think so. So it's a lot of people, that are very talented, especially in the kind of talent you need in startups. So engineers, designers who come from all around the world. They like to be in Berlin. So there's I think a good talent pool. The cost of living was fairly low, and that led, I think, to the first wave of very successful startups here in Berlin.
Right.
Rocket Times, and there was Zalando, and then there was sort of N26 and Trade Republic, Delivery Hero, HelloFresh, so there's many that by now are very big. But then I would say in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, there has not necessarily been that strong second generation. And I've been wondering a lot why, and then also observing now, obviously, the trends with AI. You see Paris really emerging very, very strongly. You see things happening around the world, but not so much in Berlin. And that's a bit of a concern for me. I think I'm still very passionate about the Berlin ecosystem, and I would love to see sort of the second and third generation of very strong startups, scale-ups, companies that have an impact also originate here in Berlin. And so I think it's something where I personally want to invest in my time, my energy, and hopefully bring a lot of good talent also to Berlin and build a great company here.
Let's hope that your new startup is going to be that second generation.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Okay, and what role do startups have building a tech ecosystem?
Yeah, a huge one, actually. So I think this is sort of where you've heard the legendary PayPal mafia, where people that build PayPal, then they earn a lot of money working there, then they build new companies, and so that's where this second and third generation comes from. A lot is people who have seen what it means to be in a startup. I've seen for 9 years what it means to build a startup. even though I wasn't the founder. So I think that puts me in a good position to build a startup. I know what it takes, and I have been able to gain experience in that regard. And so I think that if you have startups that are successful, they hire people, and then people work there and they get exposed to what it means to be an entrepreneur, and they can then go out and they can build companies. So just alone from N26, we have, I think, 29 companies that were already started by people that used to work at N26.
Interesting. So it's kind of a school almost.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really a school, and I think that's where startups play a huge role in creating the ecosystem, because you know, the ones that become successful, they attract talent, they educate them to some extent in an entrepreneurial fashion, and then they build new companies, and they have then connections as well with the previous colleagues and things like that. And so I think there's a big role where you can also give back when you're more established. So I don't know, in your office you make a space available for events.
Correct.
There's just a lot of sort of ecosystem work, I think, that startups should engage in to attract talent, to make the city more interesting. So that's I think a big role, big responsibility. Yeah.
But I guess to become an entrepreneur, it's not only enough to be ambitious, you also need skills.
Yes.
What kind of skills do you think that being an entrepreneur requires to have?
So many more, I think, than is the common perception. No? I think so. When you think about an entrepreneur, most people are like, "Oh yeah, just out of uni, you just start a startup and you become a billionaire." But it's sort of, for that one example where it works, there are 10,000s of examples where people are disillusioned, where their company doesn't take off, and where they fail. So I think that's why also I made the choice to join a startup, sort of, before building my own and gaining that experience, because I think it is the hardest thing you can do professionally, and you really need to be ready, I think. But yeah, I think so. So you need to have, I think, just an intense curiosity. You need to have a strong adaptability, right? Because the context always changes. You can never plan maybe too far ahead, especially in the early days. And I think what is maybe an underestimated skill, I think the most important thing as a founder is your people and leadership skills. I think you need to attract the best talent in the world. You need to be able to keep them. You need to unlock their full potential. And that is maybe sounds easier than it is, but it really is something I think that entrepreneurs, especially in Europe, maybe overlook sometimes, and where you see a lot of people that are just good at getting things done, but you need people who are able to build an organization that can scale. And so I think that's maybe one of the skills everyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, besides all the table stakes of being smart and driven and curious and adaptable and analytical, that they should really double down on. And it's something that I think I learned a tremendous amount of when you work in a scale-up, when you lead big teams, when you work with a lot of people. So yeah, that's maybe a few perspectives on the skill that I think you need to become an entrepreneur.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. That was great insights about entrepreneurship in Berlin and your own career path.
Yeah, thank you for your thoughtful questions. Thank you.